Ladies and gentlemen, every person here has a voice inside them. A voice that whispers, that shouts, that commands. Sometimes it is the voice of courage. Sometimes it is the voice of doubt. But more often than not, it is the voice of the ego, that invisible yet powerful companion that follows us in every step of our lives. Today, I stand before you not as a perfect man, not as someone untouched by failure or disappointment, but as a man who has wrestled with ego, who has faced defeat, who has fallen again and again, and yet never surrendered. For greatness is not in never falling. Greatness lies in rising every time you fall. Body, the nature of ego. What is ego? People often mistake ego for pride. They think ego is arrogance or self-importance or the refusal to listen. And yes, ego can manifest in these forms. It can blind us, harden us, make us deaf to wisdom. Ego can destroy relationships. It can weaken teams. It can tear down empires. But ego is not only a villain. Ego is also the fire that keeps us alive. It is that stubborn refusal to bow down to defeat. It is that inner roar that says, I am not finished yet. I will not give up. I will not be forgotten. The ego, like fire, must be controlled. Too little fire, and we freeze. Too much fire, and we burn ourselves and everything around us. But the right fire, controlled, channeled, harnessed, can light the world. Personal reflection, the great man's journey. I speak to you today not merely about ego as an idea, but as a force I have wrestled with in my own life. There were times I was beaten down, moments when the world told me I was not enough. I remember nights of silence when doubt crept in like a thief and tried to steal my will to continue. I remember failures so bitter that I questioned whether to rise again. But in those moments, I heard the ego within me. Not the ego of arrogance, but the ego of survival. The voice that said, you cannot quit. You were not born to surrender. You are more than your failures. You are more than your wounds. And so I rose. Every scar on my body, every crack in my heart, every lesson of pain became part of my armor. I walked back into the storm. I walked back into the fire. And I discovered that the man who refuses to give up cannot be destroyed. He may be broken, yes, but he will never be erased. The ego as a double-edged sword. My brothers and sisters, let us be clear. Ego can lift us or ruin us. The man who lets ego blind him to his flaws becomes arrogant, stubborn, untouchable. He refuses to grow, refuses to listen, and sooner or later he falls. But the man who shapes ego into discipline, who uses it as fuel, becomes unstoppable. His ego does not make him deaf. It makes him determined. His ego does not make him proud. It makes him unyielding. His ego does not close his eyes. It sharpens his vision. That is the difference between the fool and the great man. Both have ego. But the fool is a slave to his ego, while the great man is the master of it. Never giving up, the spirit of resilience. History remembers the men and women who refused to surrender. Think of warriors who stood even when outnumbered, thinkers who challenged the beliefs of their time, dreamers who built empires from dust. What gave them strength? It was the voice within that said, I cannot quit. Even if the world turns against me, even if I stand alone, even if I must walk through the valley of darkness, I will not give up. This is the true meaning of ego, not arrogance, not pride, but unbreakable willpower, the refusal to accept defeat as final. A great man is not defined by his victories alone. He is defined by his persistence, by his ability to rise when every voice around him says he is finished, by his courage to walk forward when the path is covered in shadows. Practical wisdom, controlling ego. Now, how do we master ego? How do we transform it from our enemy into our ally? Through humility. Humility is not weakness. Humility is strength under control. The great man knows he is powerful, but he does not need to shout about it. His actions speak louder than his words. Through discipline. Discipline sharpens ego. Without discipline, ego turns into arrogance. With discipline, ego becomes unstoppable drive. Through purpose. The great man ties his ego to something larger than himself. He does not fight only for his own glory, but for the people he loves, for the legacy he wants to leave, for the truth he wants to stand for. The call to action, becoming the great man. So, I say to you, do not fear your ego, do not destroy it. Instead, master it, control it, shape it into the fire that lights your path forward. When life knocks you down, and it will, do not lie on the ground. Rise. Rise with scars. Rise with wounds. Rise with a fire in your chest and a storm in your eyes. Rise because the great man is not the man who never falls. The